In a society that positions artists as workers for the people, musicians, uh, fine artists, and all kinds of people with creative artistic visions are placed in aisles where they become products for mass consumption. And as a result, the relationship we have with art is that of the consumer and the product, not so much of the artist to the people. And I think there's something innately destructive about that because it puts artists in a position where they feel the need to follow the whims of trends designed for people to consume in the context of capitalism. And also, it diminishes the right for an artist to explore and express their own creative path, because what it does is that it gives people the impression that the artists work for us. And because the artists work for us, if their last album is not what we liked, they need to do better. If their last piece of art wasn't as sensational as we expected, they fell off. And it is these kind of comments that I find are destructive to the psychology of artists who wish to strike this delicate balance of having their livelihood sustained by their art, trying to navigate commercial trend while still staying true to themselves. Because social media, with its isolationist structure and the echo chamber setup, galvanizes people's need to talk about what they like as if it is the only thing worth existing. And what that does is when we are not pleased with our artists, there is this tendency to drag, to humiliate, and to mock people, to mock their art, to mock their work. All for kicks, all for laughs. And yet, these are still people who have to carry the immense social pressure of having a skill that relegates them to public scrutiny. And can you imagine that amount of pressure? Does this pressure not lead to a sense of culpability on our part when these artists kill themselves? Serious question. Are we not in some way responsible when these artists feel that the only way that they can maintain themselves in such a brutal industry, with you all on their necks about what they could be doing, what they must be doing, what they'd rather be doing, is by going into self-soothing via drugs? South African songwriter Zahara recently passed, and in the wake of her passing, South Africans were shocked and given the opportunity to reflect on the career of one of Mzansi's most trailblazing vocalists. A career that had in its last days been reduced to the status of an artist struggling with a drinking problem, who had openly and publicly asked for crowdfunding due to numerous label challenges and personal woes. An artist who was beginning to unravel in front of her own fans in ways that many considered to be distasteful, in ways that many jumped on to humiliate, to demean, to even blame her for the very things that were happening in her life. And now, responsibility is always there, but it goes both ways. If Zahara was responsible for taking care of her health, are we not responsible for trying to speak to each other in respectful ways on social media? If celebrities are responsible for not trying to send negative images and stereotypes to the youth, are we not responsible for mocking them when they openly fail to live up to those standards? If we are going to treat our public figures and our artists as fodder for our own satisfaction and judgment, should we not also be accountable for the emotional imprint that leaves in their minds. In other words, did we kill Zahara? Did we kill Jabal HP? Did we kill ProKid? Did the sequence of events that we flamed lead to the shooting of Keenan Forbes? In a world where the connections that we make online have now more than ever become such visibly tangible aspects of modern culture, are we not being responsible with how we use our voices? This is the question. And I think this question comes because as we enter into the new year, South Africans in particular, the world in general, are in a world which increasingly is using technology to place us in these neat little boxes where we can confirm and affirm each other based on common cues, loves, and interests. And what those things tend to do is that what we love is heralded at the expense of what we don't. Social media has an algorithm that is deliberately divisive. It uses as much as your love for something, your dislike of something against you by convincing you that humiliating and dragging others in the name of free speech, in the name of judgment, in the name of doing what is right, is considered the norm. Take, for instance, a local rapper by the name of Mlamli, whose music we played here on the Headspace recently, who freestyled on DJ Switch's platform only to be humiliated in a moment that was quote-unquote serving to put him on.
Nah. Okay. Nah.
The question is this: if artists are not allowed to make public mistakes without being humiliated for it, how will they grow? If practitioners of the art use artist mistakes as ways to catapult their own platforms, is that ethically right? Are we part and parcel of murdering the spirit of artists to keep trying? Because the moment they fumble in front of us, we can't wait to turn it into the next trend. Is this behavior justified? I don't think so. I think as a society, if we're going to use humiliation as the method for enthusing or entertaining ourselves, we're going to have to consider how it feels to be diminished in the eyes of people, especially for something as innocent as a mistake in your vocal projection, or forgetting a lyric, or for delivering lines that are not up to par with audience expectations. If we live in a world where people cannot have the confidence to openly grow and evolve and fall in front of us, knowing that what we can do is pick them up and help them try again. Because what normally happens is we spit on our artists and we call it dragging. We call it entertainment. And we still become shocked when artists after artists chooses to leave this world rather than stay inhabiting the world of art. Because art, again, subjects you to the will of the masses. And what do we do with this? What do we do with our artists? How are we treating them when they are given into us to handle with care, like anything in this world? I think this culture of dragging has come to a lethal level. A level where we need to consider what true humor is. and whether or not it's really funny if it kills the spirit of a person. Now, this isn't something new. This is something that social media has only amplified. People, many would argue by their nature, form themselves into groups based on their commonalities, and these groups tend to look at every other group in ways that tend to be, at the very least, not as preferred as theirs, at the very most tasteless and inferior. And it is this extreme of seeing what is different from you as lower than you, as not deserving of your time and attention and your respect, that has literally flamed the fire of oppression, that flames the fire of ignorance. If we are not able to understand the diverse lifestyles and experiences of people that allow them to be who they are, and not even have a semblance of empathizing with that, then we as a people are not going to be able to truly live amongst each other. So in the context of art, by its very form and function, art is an illustration of the experience of people. All of these experiences, the dark ones, the light ones, the heavy ones, the sharp ones, the blunt ones. And artists are people. They have their quote-unquote flaws. They have their moments. But because celebrity culture, through its emphasis on positioning artists as ideals for things that people should pursue to be, changes these very normal people and creates this illusion of making them larger than life, which they're not. Especially in countries like South Africa, where the quote-unquote divide of celebrities isn't even that wide. The Hollywood machine succeeded in projecting a hyper-reality that told you that who you needed to be could be found in the identities given to you by capitalism through its media. The music we watch, listen to, you sometimes watch, the art we consume places itself as a vehicle for our aspirations and a mirror for our experiences. But we often forget that behind this art are the voices of real people with their own inadequacies, with their own kinks, with their own toxic traits, with their own life that, just like yours, is riddled with conflicts and contradictions and renders no one perfect in the face of the world. Why do we forget that when it comes to artists? Why do we feel justified to treat artists as if they do not exist? And I want to use two instances of the ways that we commonly do this. When artists commit heinous crimes, it is the impulse of those who feel touched, hurt, and are bereaved in the moment to speak out against these artists. And yet, many a protest and a movement online has been formed to boycott the artists to an extent where the livelihood of the art is shut down, they lose endorsements, and before you know it, they are unable to get by. Now, I don't have an answer to whether or not that is ethically okay. I want to pose the question of the point of protest. Do we protest in order to execute vengeance on those whose actions we deem immoral and undeserving to be part of society? Is it as easy as eliminating an R. Kelly when his whole livelihood is connected to children, to a family, to a life that transcends his atrocious behavior? This is the question. Holler at me in the comment section. I'm really interested to hear your view on this. And on the other hand, artists who make simple mistakes that can, in the lens of culture, be seen not so much as moral failings other than just human mistakes. And yet, their mistakes, because they're seen in public, are emphasized and exaggerated to incredible proportions. Imagine if all of the stupid shit you did played itself out in front of millions of people. Excuse me, because it's making me sick. And you had to face the brunt of that. Now sit with that question and talk to me in the comment section, because I truly believe we can do better. We must do better. My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. Let's stop killing our artists.